Hey, beautiful human, thanks for clicking on our conversation with Greyson Chance. Trophies is his latest body of work. There's a link in the description below. If you haven't heard it yet, while you're down there, leave your honest feedback on the conversation in the comment section. Hit like on this video, and please subscribe. Okay, here we go.
Let's do this. Zach Show.
Hello, beautiful human.
Hello.
We think this thing is on. We're not really totally sure. But that's Dan. I'm Zach, and we welcome Greyson Chance back to the studio.
Hey. Thank you so much.
You made it.
It feels so good to be seeing you in person and to be here in real life.
It is an honor to just be in your energy, dude. I have really, truly, one, we have a body of work to discuss, but two, I really haven't seen you it's been too long, and every time I've seen you recently has been purely social, purely fun, just making memories that still stick with me. It's been too long.
The last time I saw you was after the El Rey show.
Yes.
Where that was like such a monumental moment for me because, I mean, playing LA is always really like nerve-wracking, you know? And I never thought that I could play a venue that big in LA, and we did it. And then we ended up back at the house with like some really bad pizza with like 8 of the people that I love the most. And I remember there was just bottles of Prosecco kind of going around. And I remember being exhausted. And I was like, this is the life of a pop star. This is it right here. And that was a fun night though.
In that moment, do you want that again?
Absolutely. I miss it. Like it. And again, it feels just so surreal to even be back in town, to even be like doing an interview because it's just been such a whirlwind blur of a year and a half, you know?
A year and a half that for you has been mostly spent in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Which, that's where you're from. You've always maintained residency there.
Yeah.
Like, your ID is Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, I bought my first house last year, too. So that was really cool.
In Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma, yeah. But it was funny because I remember ending 2019 and just sort of doing like a mental recheck and saying, man, you know, I loved all of the touring, but like that was a lot, right? We did like 118 shows that year. And then I said, okay, I just need a little bit of a break. And then COVID started and it was sort of like, okay, maybe this is kind of nice, like, you know, can kind of chill out for a second. And then it just kept on going and going and going. And I said, I'm losing my mind. Like I'm ready for something.
What does Oklahoma give you outside of a project in buying a house? Which, I mean, you buy a house. That's like, I will probably never own a home. So the thought of that is such a wild thing. But I assume that there's work involved with it, correct?
Yeah. Oklahoma for me, I mean, I've lived, like I consider myself kind of a dual citizen. I mean, I spend a lot of time in LA, but for me, it's like a point of inspiration, right? Is I just feel so much more inspired there. And then I can actually feel, in LA, it's so easy to sort of just, it's hard to think that you're cool here because there's 1,000,001 other things happening that are so much cooler than you. So I think when I'm able to be back in Oklahoma, I'm sort of like, okay, I'm doing some cool stuff. Like things are all right. And I just feel a sense of peace there.
Does the art feel different in Oklahoma? Because like there is no comparison. Like what are you comparing yourself to in Oklahoma? Corn?
There are buildings. It's a city.
You see that brick?
Yeah. I think I'm not comparing myself to anybody there. And I think that's why I like it because I'm really able to sort of laser focus in. And at this point now too, you know, we just said hi to each other and it's like, I'm still here. That's how I feel now. You know, it's been 11 years since I signed my first record deal. So even the fact that I have another body of work, I'm like, okay, we're still here. We're still doing it. The skin's still clear. We're good. We're good.
That is like, it really is remarkable. And I was explaining to Blair and Sven, like, who you were, right? And obviously, you know, if you're going to go through the history of Greyson Chance, you have to start at the very beginning, which is, you know, your mom and dad met, and then you ultimately waltz out of the womb to play a Lady Gaga song
literally
at your school. And that is 11 years ago. And they said that. They like, that's when I first met you.
You guys met 11 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what?
Maybe 10 at the least.
In a weird way, you've like, in a few years, you will have known me for half of my life.
That's, yeah.
So weird.
Well, because the truth is, you were one of the first viral sensations. You were one of the first viral anything. And when you look now, you see NFTs, you see all this stuff. Who owns the original version of that?
It's
video?
funny. It's funny that you asked that, because we in like a past interview on this cycle, somebody wanted to use a clip of it, and they said, "Well, who owns it? We need to like do all these checks." And I'm like, me, right? And they did all the they checked it all out, and I own the video.
The NFT concept, non-fungible token, which is essentially the memorialization and the, artification, I guess, of a digital asset, a digital viral culture moment.
Should I turn that into an NFT?
Yes. Greyson. When the time is right. I don't want to rush anything, because it's accessible now to anybody. Anybody can search that and find it.
Based off the way that TikTok is treating Unfriend You, which is one of my earlier day things, I need to talk to Ari and see if we can turn that video into an NFT.
By the way, that was your first. Was that your second?
That was the second single.
And
still haunted to it, or haunted by it in 2021. Wow.
Are you haunted by the paparazzi video also?
Now I actually think it's really cool. I, for a long, long time, was like, never, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to see it. And then now I look back at it, and it feels like sort of new. And now it feels like so long ago, where it's like, it's kind of cool to think about the start of things. But I'm not going at home cooking pasta and let's get on YouTube and search it out. That's not my vibe.
But what do you feel when you see Unfriend You? Is it a different feeling?
I feel so confused thinking about how people got paid to put that together. You know what I mean? And it's now I'm thinking of, can you imagine being on that set? Just imagine being a gaffer, right? And you're just kind of watching what's unfolding, and you're like, this is really what we're doing today? This is the vibe. The only good part about that video is Ariana. She looks amazing. She looks great. And then there's me, I'm popping Coca-Cola bottles, having a day party with, 30 teens. When I watched the video for the first time a few months ago in a long time, my love interest in the video does a somersault at the party. I was like, this is outrageous. This is crazy. Imagine being that gaffer that is just what?
And 20 million people have watched it.
And 20 million people have watched it.
That's it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Link somewhere on the screen of that video. That is wild to think. And that what was the first single, though? Wasn't it?
First single was Waiting Outside the Lines.
Yes. Oh, my God. Classic. Wow. And I remember seeing you on the road with Miranda Cosgrove.
Oh, yeah.
Great show.
Which she just posted on her Instagram. She was singing Shut Up, my song.
I saw that.
And I was like, oh, my gosh. It was so crazy. Her and I experienced a good chunk of, or at least a good chunk of my childhood was going on the road with her.
Yeah, you did a whole summer together.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that show so vividly because it was just you behind a piano, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a band, but it was a lot of acoustic stuff on that set.
So good.
Are you happy with how the past 11 years have played out, or would you change anything?
This is where these interviews just start to turn rapidly into a therapy session. I like to live in a sort of philosophy of I'm never trying to look back, right? But there is, and not trying to now tie in the record that's coming up, but there was a lot of things that I had dealt with during the pandemic that I actually realized that I'd not really ever had a moment to breathe, from that paparazzi video to getting, back out on the road with portraits after going to college and always fighting to survive in the industry. That's what I've been doing the past 11 years. And the pandemic really brought up a lot of just me reconciling with the fact that I still did have kind of a lot of trauma from some things that happened to me as a kid, some of the things I had to go through in the industry. And I really had to sort of stare that right in the eye during the pandemic. And so I don't know if there are things that I would necessarily change in terms of the way that I did or my actions, but there are things that I really, really wish didn't happen to me or that I could go back and sort of navigate around. Because just as much as the industry sort of embraced me in the beginning, it like chewed me up and spat me out quickly after too.
Do you feel like the cards are stacked against you?
I think the cards are stacked against any artist that has that big of a starting moment.
Yeah.
Because how do you follow it up, right? And even if you do follow it up with something super successful, it's always going to be compared numbers wise to, well, this video got X amount or whatever. So you're immediately already kind of deemed as, well, it wasn't as good as this. So I think it was sort of that. And, you know, also too, it's like the opportunity that I was given when I was 12 was an opportunity that artists work, you know, their entire life to get. And so I was just thrown into it. So maybe
ready?
a little, no way at all. And again, too, now looking back, I'm kind of surprised and proud of myself for being able to handle it as, you know, I think sort of seamlessly as I did, and my family too. Yeah.
Tremendous. Because it was everybody. Like, I remember meeting your dad the first time, meeting your mom on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, a moment like that, especially so early on where there's not a lot to compare it to, right? In terms of like other people who just happen to post a video onto YouTube and to like literally change their life. Like, I remember it was like the hide your kids, hide your wife lady.
Yeah.
And then there was you.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy to think about. But like, yeah, like your whole family's affected by that pretty instantaneously. If you can go back in time, would you have still signed the deal with Interscope, which essentially gave you like Unfriend You and, you know, all the first single, the whole thing?
I think if I could go back, I think I would have pressed pause for a second. Like, I wish I could have gone on the show, like gone on Ellen, had the video out, and I wish we could have sort of taken more time to really kind of have some conversations over, okay, what is going to be the best sort of deal? What even are these deals? Like, what is industry norm? Like, all of those things, and really kind of have a second to think about what I wanted to do. But it was just instantaneous. You know, I got my first record deal the day I was on Ellen. I mean, it was like, here's the record label, here's your manager, here's your agent. I mean, everyone was there.
And it was handed to you.
Yeah.
But you and your family, you just have no idea what these people are telling you. You're not in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
You're just signing whatever they're saying. You're like, oh, I'm a little kid who's getting a record deal. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. 1,000%. And, you know, to my parents' credit, though, too, I do remember conversations of, you know, do you actually want to do this? I do remember that. And at the time, the train of thought was we would be so stupid not to. And I knew that deep down, too, even at 12. But yeah, just some more time to kind of think about it and think in the way that it would change my life. You know, but also I was 12, so who knows if I would have even been able to wrap my head around all of that at the time.
The fact that you're sitting here today and you have a new body of work, another one, do you feel like you prove people wrong?
I want to feel that. Like, I wish I could go to bed at night going, yeah, I've proved all of those naysayers, all those people who said, you know, you're dead in the water, you're never going to live past that video. But I think that's kind of more of an internal conflict for me, is I'm always feeling as if I have to outdo my past self. Or, you know, Portraits, for example, was the record where everybody said, wow, you guys actually did it. You know, you are taken seriously now as a musician
And
with this
selling
body of
out
work.
rooms.
Yeah, and selling out rooms. And then it's like, okay, now you got to follow it up. And so I wish I could feel that way, but I don't know if I necessarily do.
Well, but the journey's never over, you
Yeah.
know? Like, the releases don't stop coming, and
Yeah.
with every new release, there's pressure, right? Because to your point, you're always going to be compared to what you did before.
Yeah, and too, like, it's weird because I used to always be the youngest kid on the block. Not the case anymore. Homeboys growing up. I'm still only 23, but like
That's crazy.
that in pop music, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I might as well be 88.
Dude, I mean, the cycles of culture that have happened
Yeah.
since you came on the scene, I mean, has been extraordinary. Platform shifts, musical shifts. I mean, so much has changed since the beginning. I mean, I think about it sometimes, but it really is wild to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, last question about this whole Ellen thing, do you feel like you've finally broken that label of, oh, the kid from the Ellen show? Do you finally figure out you're in a place where people just see you as Greyson Chance?
I think so. And what was interesting too is like, going out and playing that tour in 2019, I would meet like fans who would be like, oh, we didn't even really know that was you. We found the record on, whatever streaming service and we really liked it. So we bought a ticket. So that was kind of reassuring to be like, okay, maybe I have, kind of shed that a bit. But I know that I'll always get asked about it until I'm literally 88,
Or until you sell the NFT and you make a boatload of money on it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't own it anymore. You should talk to the guy who
I'm going to
owns
start
it.
doing research into that after this interview.
Yeah, I do. Thinking about it, you might have to clear it with Stephanie Germanotta, a.k.a. Lady Gaga. But,
Okay, hold on. Let me just...
Yeah, can you just drop her a line? Thanks.
Oh, she's busy right now.
Still in Italy. I
Okay.
get it. Okay.
She's actually not in Italy anymore.
Was she in West? I saw she was in West Hollywood dancing with people on the streets.
Mhm.
It's pretty remarkable.
Mhm.
We have a body of work. That is the real
Yeah.
reason why we're here today. I don't even know the name of it because
Trophies.
it's it's so weird. I've been listening to the box link that I got, which is like a very like some say like clean, some say like there's all like different labels on it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to just jump the gun and claim a name without really fully knowing.
It is called Trophies.
What does that mean? Are these songs trophies?
So the idea all started, after Portraits. I remember I went back into the studio and just felt really lost. I didn't even really know what I wanted to do next. I didn't know, where I sort of wanted to go sonically. And at that beginning point, since the music wasn't really inspiring me or really like driving the ship, I was like, okay, I'm going to look around at other mediums. And so I became really obsessed with this photographer named Robert Eggleston. And he had this one particular photo. It's like of a jukebox, and there's a few different trophies on it. And I was just, for some reason, like weeks and weeks would go by, and I was staring at this picture, just looking at it, sort of analyzing it. And I thought that a trophy was such an interesting object to me because you could have this super elaborate, super beautiful, thing that's gold plated, a whole 9 yards, right? But it's all about the fine print. Like it could still say 9th place runner up. And I thought that was so interesting. And I looked through a lot more of his photographs. And eventually what happened is it became this sort of idea of wanting to show people that I was maybe not the trophy that they thought I was. That maybe some nights the fine print is way worse than I would ever want it to be. So I became sort of obsessed with that, and then the music just kind of followed. And it's weird. I was like on the way here today, I was thinking about, even just talking about the inspiration behind the songs and sort of meanings and all of it. And it's just interesting how, for me, I write all of this music, and it's not really until it's complete and I look back and start listening where I notice the thread and I notice that, oh, this is what this chunk of music is about, and this is what it's going to signify in my life. And I've always just thought that's kind of interesting.
So does the idea for trophies started, or does it come afterwards?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, do you know that you want to name this this body of work Trophies? Are you inspired by the thought of trophies before you start creating, while you're creating, after?
It was very much so. It was weird. Yeah, for this, it was like before I even had a song, I was like, this is
Trophies.
the headspace that I want to stay in. This is what it's going to be called.
Are you sending messages to different people? Because you're essentially saying, like, you are not the trophy that this person really thinks you are or assumes you are.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying it, I think, to the love of my life now. I think I'm also saying it to a lot of, sort of my past relationships. And I also think I'm saying it like generally to my fans, to the public. I think it's a lot of, it's maybe not as pretty as it seems.
Got it. Just because, it's a big shiny gold thing, the fine print could tell a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody
and
gets
that's the end.
Well,
that's the end of the interview.
Well, then there's participation trophies. Everybody gets one sometimes.
That's true, and that they should take that away.
Yeah,
should only get one if you win for. I'm just kidding.
This album, when do you start making it?
And equally too, what was interesting about this body of work is this one was not easy. I mean, it went through iteration after iteration after iteration.
Did I hear some of this music in 2019?
Yeah. I mean,
I thought so.
I had like an album ready, like kind of around the pandemic. And then I listened to it and I said, nope, scrap all that. Let's start over. And then it was originally going to come out in the fall of 2020. And then I heard all that and I said, nope, scrap it. So it has gone through multiple iterations. And that's why sometimes my team loves me so much and then they hate me so much too.
Are you taking the same songs and reworking them, or are you starting from zero every time?
It really, for me, I didn't realize until it was like maybe September of 2020. I had realized the issue was I was trying to write everything to sort of please other entities that were not myself. And I had to get out of that headspace. Because, also behind the scenes too, I had just signed again to a major label. So there was kind of that pressure that wasn't forced on me, but I think I felt it myself. And then I was just realizing that the music wasn't really hitting me like Portraits hit me. And that was really freaking me out and scaring me because I was writing it all, but it didn't have that edge to me that I really, really enjoy. And also too, that I think is like necessary for me to survive now as a musician with my past. And it was once I removed all of that pressure and I realized that the whole thing came together probably in like 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you really make music for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
When does the 3 weeks begin?
That was around September, October of 2020.
Okay, so fall, like recent.
Yeah.
And when do you finish it?
Mm-hmm. And it got finished, I would say, around February.
Do you use the same people you were working with before? Or do you have to call in new collaborators?
For the most part, Nashville had a lot more of an influence on this record than Portraits. I didn't write any of Portraits in Nashville, but there was something about. It's a 10-hour drive from Oklahoma City to Nashville. I love driving, and so there was something so freeing about hopping in my car, especially kind of during the pandemic. Because it was just sort of like, the whole country was kind of in a weird, nomadic, strange space. And I just went on that drive probably like 4 times. And just felt inspired and was writing stuff in Nashville.
And working with different people than you were working with here in LA. Because here in LA, I remember you were working with Uffy, you were working with Teddy.
Yeah.
Did they make it on this body of work at all?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was really...
Or no, one song.
Which one?
Holy Feeling.
Oh, are you connecting God to sexual acts in that record? That's what it sounds like as a man who's read the Bible.
That song is a song that I've actually really wanted to write for a long time, and I didn't know what was going to be the proper way to sort of express it. And
Why'd
I'm
you
gonna
want to write that? How, like what goes down?
I wanted to write something a bit about. You have to understand, Oklahoma is like, there are religious places, and then there's Oklahoma. And, it was less about, it was me sort of wanting to make a statement to just kind of a lot of people in my life, a lot of family actually, where it was just getting to a point where I was saying, you're so not focused on the present anymore. You're thinking too lofty. It's always about this sort of end picture, and I'm right here looking you in the eye. And so that was really kind of my way to say, I don't know, to be more present, to not be so focused on this what's happening after life, be focused on what's happening during your life right now. And so that's that song.
And in the process, it is why, like, could you have made that song with any other collaborators, or did you need those two?
I needed those two, and then I also needed El Paso. We did that song at Sonic Ranch,
okay,
which is this amazing studio complex in El Paso. It's on a pecan farm, very, very close to the border. Bon Iver did his last record there. Beach House has worked. Every band like since the 1970s has worked there, and it has this very, very sort of. It's a place that has every essence that you could possibly imagine. And it feels very sort of just inspiring there to be there and to be like you're living kind of in the studio as well. Mm-hmm. And so there's no way to escape sort of deep and vulnerable things that you want to talk about that maybe you would have been afraid to talk about in a studio in LA.
So is that how you end up connecting, really? Because there is like very obvious connections to things you do in practicing religion to sexual acts. You know, like you must be vulnerable. Do you repent?
I don't know if, I think the connection that you're talking about, I don't know if that one exists for the song. But now I'm kind of like, I wish I was that smart in the studio.
Okay. I'm going to send you a bottle of holy water.
I mean,
I need a lake of holy water at this point.
I did notice that in the two first singles, Holy Feeling and Hellboy, I think they're different meanings, but you talk about being brought to your knees.
Yeah. Well, Hellboy is way more, Hellboy is the sex song.
Yeah, have me for
1000%.
dessert, I'll have you on your knees.
Yeah. Take me out to dinner first, Dan.
Hey, man, I'm a little straightforward sometimes.
Those, and there was intention behind having those as the first two singles. I really wanted that contrast. And the label didn't want that at all.
Why?
They were like, it's too much of a 180. It doesn't make sense. You're coming out of this record and going on to the next, and it's too all over the place. And I said, well, the Trophies has a lot of range, and let's show that. And I liked this sort of dichotomy of, you have Holy Feeling, which feels really sort of pure in a way, and then let's go to Hellboy. Like let's show the other side of the record and kind of how much range is going to be on this EP.
Let's take that stripper pole down to hell with Lil Nas X and
Exactly.
work on the devil's...
Exactly. Well, then, I mean, I love him to pieces, but that song came out 2 weeks and then Hellboy drops. So, of course, gay Twitter was just like, oh, no, we see what you did. And I was like, I wish that we could have pulled that off. Can you imagine 2 weeks? No. I listened to the Lil Nas record and I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go in the studio. Let's record it. Let's get the video together. I was like, oh, man, you know.
Do you hate that those parallels could even be made?
I mean, yeah, but I get it. I understand it. It's been interesting too. So also during the pandemic, my boyfriend and I just celebrated our 1 year anniversary.
Mazel tov.
Thank you so much. But what I think he's learned from being together this long is he loves to sort of look at his favorite artist and he's like, oh, this is intentional, and you can tell that they put this little hint here and it sort of calls back to this. And I'm like, maybe, I don't know. Most artists, like, I don't know. It's usually just sort of coincidental, and all these parallels that are drawn and things. I think it's just fans really like to kind of go out there and draw whatever lines they can, you know?
And people like the story, you know? Like, what do you think the show exists for?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
To shine light on
1000%.
that exact stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you make music different now that you're in love? And is it weird to admit that so confidently?
Yeah, I mean, what's weird is too, it's so cliche, but when you know, you know. And
How did you know?
Well, I was about to say, and I thought I knew, but then because last time I was here, we were talking about a completely different story. It's just that like feeling where I can't explain it. I feel so a part of him, and he feels so a part of me now too. And it's truly like I wake up in the morning and I don't want to live life without him. Like that just sounds like a crummy life to me.
Oh, tell
and
us what that's like.
It's really nice, but it can also be really frustrating too. Like a large part of the inspiration behind Trophies as well was I realized that I don't know if basically our relationship in terms of thinking about love was like a huge inspiration behind the record. What was more inspiring was this newfound sense of fear that I had that I was going to lose it. And that's what I wrote about a lot on Trophies. And that was very interesting and unique to me because I never felt that emotion before.
Does the fear of losing the love make you a better partner?
I don't know. I think it can actually get really unhealthy because if you're constantly in your head thinking like I need to be, I mean, you should always try to be the best for your partner. But if you're constantly thinking of I need to be perfect all the time because I might lose them, then I think that could be really, really bad. But I mean, maybe like a little healthy fear is probably good.
Do you think the pandemic is the reason why you're in this relationship and it's as healthy as it is and as thick and intense as it is?
Yeah. And I mean, also too, I mean, the luxury with him and I was, you know, I wasn't able to, like if I had been on tour, I mean, how could that have started? We had 8 months to sit together and to really, really get to know each other. And I've not had a chunk of time like that in, I can't remember, And so it was really, really helpful. But I mean, also as well, like the pandemic for me was really, really tough because it was such a lifestyle change. I was looking at myself in the mirror, during it and after being on the road for so long in 2019 and finally having this moment in music where I'm like, okay, I got it together now. Things are good.
And now nothing.
And then now nothing. And I was just looking at myself in the mirror and I didn't even know like what my purpose really was anymore.
Well, and that's so interesting because the truth is like you should have been doing festivals. Like you were coming off of such a hot moment with portraits, but we're doing it again with trophies.
Yeah. And again too, like, what's cool about this record now and moving into the next cycle is I don't feel like I was really nervous that I was going to start getting on stage again and almost be like, whoa, I don't know how to do this anymore. Like I kind of lost it. And it truly is like riding a bike. You get back on it and it feels so genuine and good again. And so I'm glad that has happened, but yeah, we're doing it again, but we'll see. I'll see you on the next record.
And I'll be there in the theater watching you on stage. You're one of the most incredible performers I've ever seen. You leave every bit of it yourself up there.
Thanks.
You share yourself completely and totally. Really incredible.
Thank you.
The vocals, you go really high.
Mm-hmm.
Your falsetto is like on full display.
Mm-hmm.
That's a choice.
That's a choice, and one that, I mean, it's cool now because when my voice changed, I had to take a few years to really sort of figure some things out. And then I almost feel a little bit like this on Portraits, but this was really like my first time going into the studio and writing where I was like, ooh, I know how this works now. I know every sort of part of it because I don't think your voice actually settles until you're like 23 or 24.
But your voice is naturally so deep.
I guess that's true, right?
I mean, right now.
Yeah. Hey. But also too, what you on the record, I'm also doing the low octave stuff too.
Yeah. You know how your voice works, so you know how to apply it. Are you afraid to duplicate that on stage?
Well, now I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't think about it.
Like that real deep part. It's like the chorus of Hellboy. Yeah.
Hands tied, bite your lip, green light, flip and twist, dark magic, red boot kick. I think it could even hands tied, bite your lip, green light, flip and twist. You know how many times we did that in the studio? Drove those guys crazy in Nashville because they don't work past 6 p.m.
Oh, it's a 9-to-5 type thing. It's
and how boring is that? What am I supposed to do? Go back to the hotel? No.
That's how adults work.
Yeah, I hate that.
What was so hard about that song? Was it getting it deep or is it the flow of it?
It's because like, God bless Billie Eilish for having that documentary and really showing people like this is what vocal production is, because it's literally once you've been doing it for so long, you know that you can have a take that's good and that will work, but then you're looking at those waveforms and you're like, hold on, let me do one more time, and then in Nashville they're like, well yeah, so it's midnight and you said that like 8 hours ago and my dog needs to be fed and I have a kid and I need to get home. And I'm like, well, that sucks. You shouldn't be in music then. Let's go again.
That's the answer.
Come on. Just kidding. No one was neglected making this record.
It's interesting that like has vocals taken on like a new role in your process now that you can do things with your voice that you maybe couldn't have done before?
I think so. It's funny too. There's no like real thread of consciousness in the studio. I know that sounds so absurd and so crazy, but it's truly just following what is feeling so right and so good at that moment. And that it takes a long time to be able to actually trust your instinct in the studio. And it takes like years of just going in and experimenting and throwing things on the wall. But again, too, it almost feels like you go into the room and you don't really have a conscious thought until you're back in your car, driving back, listening to the demo. And then you're sort of like, okay, maybe we could change X, Y, and Z. But this was the first sort of iteration and the first like try at it, you know?
Who are you singing to in Hands?
Hands is basically every sort of adolescent, like high school romance. Basically, any time that I was in love with a straight boy, that was sort of an open note to them, which is something that really doesn't get talked about, I think, in a lot of like, I don't know, a lot of sort of queer culture. But there's this, I don't know, I don't want to play like too big of a victim card here, but there's a certain tendency, I think, sometimes amongst like straight men, or at least this was my experience in high school, where they like to know that they're adored, or that they're, you know, hot or whatever. And so they almost like kind of pull along gays or queer people. And then the second that person expresses anything that's sort of romantic, it's like, oh, never. No. I don't do that. And it's like, well, why did you say I look so beautiful tonight then? Or why did you put your arm around my hip or waist or something like that, you know? So I really wanted to sort of, I had like all of these stories in my head, and times where I kind of had to break my own heart as like a 15, 16-year-old. And so this is like my kind of letter to all those people.
Felt and understood.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to a place where that even creeps back into your life?
Mm-hmm. Wait, what do you mean?
Like, do you sit down and think to yourself, there's unfinished business here?
Got you. No, I had a dream actually.
Oh.
About a particular person, and then that's when I wrote Hands like a week later. I remember journaling about it and saying, this is really weird. And then I kind of wrote again about like now having some time to look back at my adolescent self, and I was like, no, that actually really was messed up. Like you weren't crazy to think what you were thinking because of XYZ and because of what he said and all these things. And then I remember like a week later in the studio, I was like, oh, wait, I think I have something I want to talk about.
Is that what people say, like, consider when they say queer baiting?
Yes, I was just going to use that phrase.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And it happens all the time. And by the way, I have no comment.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's kind of just, it's gross. And I also think, too, like, do not treat people like an experiment. Don't just assume that it's, like, okay to do that because you're trying to figure your own self out. Because for that queer kid, this is maybe love. This is maybe the thing that we always thought we weren't allowed to maybe have or not even be a part of. So it's like, don't mess around with that. Also, get your hands off me. Get out of here.
What is high-waisted love?
High-waisted love is, again, talking about, so I feel like high-waisted, and there's a song called Nobody on the record as well. Those, I think, are sister songs in the way that they are, again, really directly talking about the fear of, like, if it were to end, what would be the emotions after that? Would I think it was, in High-Waisted, I'm saying you were too tight on us, you were too constricting of it. And then in Nobody, I'm saying, man, but no one knows how to operate me like you did. Does that make sense?
So even though it was strangling, it was right.
Maybe. I think they're like period statements though. So I think high-waisted is like one thought, and then Nobody's a completely different other thought, but maybe in the same like breakup scenario.
Do you experience high-waisted love and then you have to write about it?
No, I think it was me envisioning an end or a potential end of the relationship I was in now.
Is that hard to play a song like that for somebody you're currently in love with?
We had to work on it. We had to like, because I think he felt as if whenever I would play him music, I think he'd almost be like, you don't have to play it for me because it might be a little too personal. Or he's like, I feel like I'm like almost reading your diary. And I'm like, totally, but also the whole world's going to hear it. So you might want to listen. But then I've also had to explain to him, because there were other songs that kind of happened where they might not have a direct like inspiration from us, but I may or may not be talking about a relationship or something. Sometimes you're in the studio too, and it's nice to just take on a character and to write something that actually has nothing to do with you.
But is this album from that vantage point?
None at all. But there have been some songs where he's like, oh, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, no, this one's not about you, babes. This one's okay, you know?
Whether you mean it or not.
Yeah. What is funny though, so I'm doing Oklahoma City Pride on June 25th, which is going to be amazing.
You're
But,
definitely the most famous gay in Oklahoma.
yeah. I'm trying to think of.
Who else you got?
We can Google gays in Oklahoma.
7 of them.
Kristen Chenoweth is an honorary gay.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So she might be it.
She's a blessing.
Uh-huh. But I'm nervous.
You're Nicole number 2. Keep going.
Okay, cool. I'm nervous because his parents, that will be the first show that they see.
And you've met these parents before.
Oh yeah. Have a really good thing with them.
Is your shirt going to come off in this show? Probably.
I mean, it's just like
It always does.
you never know what might happen on. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen on stage.
But do you perform differently knowing that his parents are there?
No,
watching?
I can't. Like I won't. But it is just like, it is sort of interesting to know that we're gonna have to be at a Sunday night dinner after that gig, and I'm gonna be like, hey, so when I said this, that, and this, I said that because truly, it's really actually inspiring. To the kids, and it's more of a sort of a metaphor on this bigger thing, and then I'll just start talking about that Robert Eggleston picture to maybe look like educated. It's just scary. Or it's like, it really all started because I was obsessed with this photo. They definitely probably think I'm crazy.
Do you have them over for dinner at your new house?
I do, yeah.
You
Yeah.
host them?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then
have they met your parents?
they've met my parents. Like it's a full thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is what we should have been doing during the pandemic. We should have been finding love.
Yeah, it didn't happen for us.
You should have been forcing yourself upon somebody for 8 months straight.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that you two like will churn like 70, and then you'll look at each other and you'll be like, we've been doing it for this long.
Grayson, I can promise you that will never
It
happen.
won't happen. Okay. Okay.
I appreciate the positivity.
Okay. Whatever you say.
Oh my God, if that is where my life goes, I've done so much wrong.
Don't say that about Dan. You would be so lucky.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
See you
you'd be
guys
lucky.
when you're 70.
Yeah.
know?
If we make it that far.
I know. After
Long.
this past year and a half, I'm like, gosh.
The greatest curse would be to make it with Dan until I'm 70.
Just imagine if me and Zach were just still sitting in these chairs in
You haven't moved.
40, 50
Yeah.
years talking to people.
The truth is, that's probably what we're going to
Oh. Question about nobody. Actually, it's not a question. It's just a compliment. That's a song where you say, here's my singing. God damn. Love it.
Thanks.
Love
Thanks.
it. Love
Thank you
it.
so much.
That's all I have to say about that one.
That's the question? Was you singing?
Yeah. Well, it was a compliment.
I'm into that.
I told him it was a compliment.
I'm into that.
I like the part at the end where it kind of like the guitar hits at the same time. It's one of those parts of the song you're just like, yep.
That was another Nashville one.
Shout out Nashville. What time was that done? Like 3 p.m.?
I don't think we went super late that day. I definitely pushed them. It was definitely like 8 p.m. I mean, these people are trying to leave at 5. I'm telling you, it's outrageous.
It's a different life there.
I know, it really is.
Is that why some people is only a minute? Did you guys didn't have time to finish it?
That was just no, that was an artistic statement. That was just very much so. Speaking of Chris Martin, the first Coldplay album was Parachutes, was my first CD that I've ever bought. And the title song on that album is, I think, maybe a minute, 10 seconds. And it's brilliant. And I was listening to that on a drive to Nashville, and I said, I want to do something like that.
What role do you feel like that song played in that album?
I think that's what's cool, is that I don't know, again, too, talking about like conscious and non-conscious thoughts. I think they put that on there because they really liked it, and they probably just really loved the way that it fit and the place that it did. And I'm sure maybe the lyric has a significant meaning, but whether a song is 4 minutes long or a minute, if it packs a punch, it packs a punch, you know?
I love Oh Violet.
Thanks.
Layers of sun, layers of moon. I love that metaphor for like days, right? And
Yeah.
like in time.
Yeah.
So exquisite.
Yeah.
How does that song begin?
So I wrote that with Jason Reeves, but I hope, and I don't think Jason would be offended by me saying this, but that was like, I mean, every word of that came from me. I mean, there was it was me literally just sitting in a corner, just kind of sprawling things down on a notebook. And I think that was at a time where I really wanted to not only show people that I could really, really sing, like, because I really wanted to, like you said, kind of show this new layer of my voice and say I can really go there. But I really just wanted to make something that was just standalone and kind of beautiful as much as we could make it. I didn't want it to have a lot of any chaos in the production or I just kind of wanted it to just be really pretty. And yeah, that whole song is kind of a love letter to LOML, love of my life. and me just basically saying that we found this space in between us. I have a really bad temper. So that's why there's I'm mad like crimson, you're sweet like blue. We found the space between us two, oh violet. Just nice little sort of love song.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, thanks. And crimson comes from Oklahoma too, because OU,
Crimson Pride.
Yeah.
Are you afraid that, you are afraid of losing the love of your life? Like, even saying that and giving that title to another person, knowing that it could be fleeting. Like, I get agita.
But again, too, that was so much of the inspiration behind
The album.
this one. And the way that I close it out, too, that last song closed, like, time and time it always ends, burn the house down. Or wait, no, time and time the way it goes, tear the house down, burn the clothes. Just thinking of this idea of, the boxes that he brought over when he moved in and what would happen in this sense. And like, yeah, again, like this has been the first time where I really, this is my guy, this is my person. And so, of course, the crazy artistic brain side of me and what I've gone through in my life, I'm like, okay, well, everything has been fleeting in my life thus far.
They're your person until they're not.
Yeah. And so I kind of just wrote a lot about that.
It's also, you ended the album with or the EP. Album or EP?
So it's technically an EP, but I will, to anybody listening, to collect 8 songs and to get them together and to put them together and make sure that everybody signs off on them. This is an album, to me at least. If the way that my back feels now after this record, this is an album. But I guess it's technically an EP.
Well, you end it with close. It's like you're closing the album, but it's spelled close. Like,
yeah.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, but now I'm gonna say I did.
Are you telling a story top to bottom with this?
I don't think so. I don't think it's I think it is a story, but I don't necessarily think it's like I'm not sure necessarily that it's like split up into chapters or into sort of like, all the way through. But I do think the story for me is just exploration of, my life during this crazy time in the world. It's my exploration of having this fear of these great, amazing things in my life and whether or not they're fleeting. And again, too, being 23 in Oklahoma and living the life that I'm living. I said the same thing with Portraits. If you want to know what's happening in my world, play the record.
What is success for you with this album?
Honestly, at this point now, and like doing it for 11 years, it is just such a success for me to just be releasing things and to still be here. And for me, I think I'm very, very proud of this music. There's so many parts of my career where I look back and I really had to like bite my tongue and just get through it. And I really didn't feel connected to the music. So for me, this thing is already successful. I wrote it, I love it, and now I'm sharing it with the world. That's like perfect. And I mean, I hope somebody buys it. That would be nice.
Or
too.
buys tickets to see you play it live.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
Or that as well. I got a mortgage to pay now,
Yeah, in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma. Yeah.
Man, your property must be so much nicer than whatever you would have bought out here in Los Angeles.
You don't know that, Dan.
I just assume the prices in Oklahoma aren't as bad as they are here.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
Are you going to say something?
That's a different way of life out there.
I'm very jealous.
Well, you say that, but then Oklahoma has this reputation, and I know you've been a few different times, right?
I've never been to Oklahoma, but I've been to Kansas, I've been to Missouri, been to Illinois, but like not Chicago, Illinois. I've been to been to Iowa, been to Omaha.
Oklahoma City is like a smaller Austin.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's the way that I could describe it.
So OKC is cool, but like where's Hooker? Where's Hooker at?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I've lived in Oklahoma my entire life, and still to this day, people will be like, "Oh man, I have family in so and so," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the eastern part of the state." And they're like, "No, it's actually the furthest north. It's on the border of Kansas." And I'm like, "Oh,
Well, that's where Hooker is.
interesting. Probably."
It's on the border of Kansas. You know, I was at one point trying to persuade you to run for governor of the great state of Oklahoma.
There's still time.
That's right.
Zach wants to run for governor of New Jersey.
I'm going to run for governor of New Jersey. There's a difference.
I was about to say you have some big shoes to fill because wasn't Chris Christie governor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
Phil Murphy has done a great job.
Okay, good.
He's done a fantastic job. But I know you hit the campaign trail in Oklahoma. You were on the ground for candidates.
I try to stay as active as I can in Oklahoma. What I think Oklahoma could teach the rest of the states
Is what?
is that things start locally. Like we have medicinal marijuana in Oklahoma, and this happened like 3 or 4 years ago. We were one of the first in the region, and people were like, "Whoa, that's so weird. How did that happen?" Local people in the urban centers went out. They got petitions. They got it on the ballot. It went through a whole legal circus because they tried to block it. They got more signatures, got back on the ballot, and it passed. And so, like, the thing in Oklahoma City is that, you know, you're in a conservative place, but in the city, people are very progressive, and they want a good community, and they want a sustainable community. So we knock doors, we get signatures, and do all that.
What is next for Oklahoma? What do you want to see?
Oh man, so much. But I think what's cool is this Pride gig is actually really, really monumental, because there's been Pride celebrations in Oklahoma in the past, or in the city in the past, but this is the first time that the city itself is really, really acknowledging Pride and really putting a lot of steam behind it. So I'm playing, the venue is downtown Oklahoma City at this really, really beautiful amphitheater. And it's just going to be amazing to know that, because I didn't have that when I was a kid. So to be able to look out at this next generation of queer youth in Oklahoma, and to be able to say it's different now here, that's going to be so special.
Yeah, you change a lot of lives.
Yeah,
on that
should come out
stage.
for the show.
When is it?
June 25th.
Okay.
No, you're busy.
No,
Yeah.
I'm writing it down. I need to pay a trip to Missouri, so while I'm over there in the Midwest, I think I can hop on
Why
a quick
not?
flight.
Get on take my car.
Can I drive from Missouri to Oklahoma?
Yeah, sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What kind of car do you drive there?
I
I feel like you drive an old car.
don't know if I want to say actually.
It's okay. You don't need to brag here.
I drive a BMW that I worked very hard for.
Yes, you did.
That's right.
I paid it off too.
Mazel.
Mm-hmm.
The future governor of Oklahoma has paid off his BMW.
I paid it off. I really right now though want to get a like beater pickup truck.
Got it.
Because I've been doing so in my like spare time during the pandemic. I've also been kind of like running a underground like furniture flipping business
living
in
the
the
life.
spare time.
What?
My friends and I would go to like just random estate sales and vintage things around town, and we would maybe like, you know, have a little fun Saturday morning, and we just put on really good music and go around town and just find these pieces of furniture that are just, I mean, outrageously cheap. And then we'd kind of flip them around and put them up on Marketplace, and
Amazing.
you know, it's insane. We bought a couch for $200 that same night, sold it for $900.
Ha!
Blair?
Hey!
Blair, you see this? This is what you're doing wrong.
That is the flip. Woo!
You know where we took that money?
Where?
So there's this dance club called Groovies that only plays 80s music in Oklahoma City. Like median age clientele is definitely probably like 58. We went and bought the whole club drinks that night. Said on us.
Wow.
Don't mind it. Yeah, and that money went quick.
And all
Yeah.
you were doing was looking at your potential prospects.
Just
you're gonna
having
end up
fun.
at their estate sales too, flipping their furniture because they're on their way out.
We're asking for business cards, yeah, for phone numbers.
Damn, life is good in Oklahoma.
I know. I'm living in Los Angeles, always thinking about where else I could live, and I think I found my new home.
Oklahoma.
Come on down.
Oklahoma City. You got extra better?
Yeah, I do actually. There you
I got
go.
a new address.
There you go.
Are you
Okay.
about to form a throuple with Dan?
Maybe.
Dan can clean your house.
I'm down.
Yeah, I'm great at cleaning. I'm a
Okay.
great cleaner.
And that rent check, I mean, first of the month.
Always on time.
Yeah, we got a mortgage to pay now.
Yeah, what kind of work are you going to do in Oklahoma?
We're gonna flip couches.
They have radio
Told you.
stations.
Do you? You have the radio in Oklahoma? I'm kidding.
We do. Watch, you're gonna get blacklisted in Oklahoma now because of that.
No, I want to be on the radio in Oklahoma City very badly. We've been trying for a long time.
Well, we have the governor sitting right here. I'm sure he could help.
Yeah, please shake a few hands, kiss a few babies.
I'll start making some calls.
Thank you so much.
Last question I had was, are you going to go back and visit Ellen and send her off into the sunset on her final season?
No.
Okay.
Got it. Greyson Chance, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out.
That was the best way we could have ended that. Have fun with that one, Twitter.
Hey, beautiful human, thanks for watching our full interview, but I get it. Like, a full interview is a lot. So we got a clips channel. We don't expect you to watch the full thing anymore, so we just gave you the highlights. Please subscribe and notifications and all that stuff. Okay, cool. I love you.